Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry havoc, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, love boy.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass!
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome back to Saturday Night Drive-In, where it is actually night now, sort of. I mean, it's dim. Sun's going down. We're a little late today.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah. A little late today, but it's fine. It's fine. We're still here. Still here. I think we're gonna have fun with this one tonight, especially compared to how we talked about last week's movie. It's a nice juxtaposition of the same world, the same characters, but handled completely differently in my perspective. Before we get into that, Jed, hi, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yes, I do have to apologize for the later hour. It is my fault. I was at NASA hanging out with some NASA employees and I got some really cool behind the scenes information and just a lot of great stuff going on there. Might tell a little fun story about that tomorrow on Roundtable, but I'm excited to be here. I do have to disappoint you though, Adam. I don't think this is going to be as positive of a stream as you'd hope.
Really? I enjoy this movie so much. I enjoyed it watching it today. I had a good time. Anyway, before we get started, I listen, this is not a conversation over, but I got to say, they're talking about steak in the chat and 20 minutes, 8 hours. That doesn't sound right. Did you type that right, Crazy? Did you type that right? 20 minutes on each side. Did you mean 2 minutes each side and 8 minutes in the oven? I mean, is that what you meant? I don't.
Unless it's a slow.
But he says high heat.
So the 20 minutes,
but 8 hours. So but he says a very thin steak. So
I don't know what oven can go down low enough for 8 hours to be possible.
Yeah. So okay. All right. Yeah. See, something didn't feel right about that. He's all right. Yeah. Okay. Something didn't feel right about it. All right. But hail and howdy to chat. Brief interaction. Normally we just get going with this, but I had to make sure I read that right. Anyway. All right, so yeah, we are here today. We're going to talk The Man in the Iron Mask, 1998 adaptation starring Gabriel Byrne, Jeremy Irons, Gerard Depardieu, John Malkovich, and Leonardo DiCaprio. It is basically the sequel to The Three Musketeers. Takes place about, I would say, 20-odd years later, maybe or so.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, about 20-odd years later.
Well, it's at least 23 years because King Louis and his brother, they're 22, they say in the film. Because he was 16 years old when he was put in prison, and he was in prison for 6 years. So at least 23 years for, the baby-making process.
A couple decades. So, a couple decades, a little over 2 decades. So it's farther down the timeline. And it's it's an ending to this saga of the of Athos, Porthos, and Aramis and D'Artagnan. It's the ending of their story, and as I said, I think it's a good story. I always enjoy it, and I like this adaptation. I had a really good time watching today, and I noticed a lot of little things today that I wouldn't notice if we didn't keep doing the show. And I'm looking at little things. Does this make sense? Is it possible? Especially because this, even though this is reality and there's no real fantasy aspects to it, there is legendary status.
There is some fantasy in it, like boomerang sword through water fountain.
Well, that's kind of the hyping up of these are legends among men, and they do fantastic things. But that's about as far as it goes. And there's like one scene at the end where you would think, oh my God, how did they survive that? But there's one little addition to it that makes you realize how they survived the charge down the corridor at the end. It's if you're looking, you see it, and it makes it make sense, to use the term that's being thrown around a lot these days when talking about a lot of the subject matter. So there we are. It's 20 years later. You've got King Louis XVI, played by DiCaprio, and you've got the different musketeers. They've gone their separate ways. 3 of the 4 are retired. D'Artagnan has stayed on to be the captain of the musketeers, the new generation, and he's been doing his best for 20 years to try and, well, not 20 years, for about probably 10 odd years, to try and make Louis a good king. But
He's
Louis
trying
not a good
so
king.
hard to be a good positive influence on him.
But Louis is he's a piece of shit. It's a horrible example. He's the worst type of nobility you're ever going to get. Someone who thinks they really are above everything, no consequences. Even one line later, you're going to go to hell. I'm a king ordained by God. Nothing can touch me. So it's fascinating that when I mean fascinating, it's why is D'Artagnan working so hard? Because, spoiler, he had an affair with Queen Anne, and the boys are his. So he tries to be a good dad, but because he can't actually say I'm your dad, makes it difficult. So, Jed, going into this though, you said you've seen it before. This was like what, maybe second, third time you've seen it?
Yeah, this would have been the second time I've seen it. I saw it probably a decade ago. I don't remember a whole lot about my first watch through. I thought I enjoyed it, but this time through, it was not a very positive experience for me.
Okay,
I had a lot of criticisms I wasn't expecting, especially from some of the acting and the direction, especially. I feel like there's a great script in there, but this was the first draft, so it's in desperate need of a redraft and a director, because the director was giving
the director was the writer and director. It was the same person.
Well, whoever this director was, he wasn't giving a lot of these actors, especially, consistent direction, and it came across. There was a lot of what I'd call schizophrenic. It is a hyperbolic term to use, but schizophrenic scenes, moments, line delivery. Just
I would agree. I would agree on that. I mean, I look at it. I think everybody does the best they can. Their performances are good.
Yeah,
I like everybody's
great actors
yeah.
doing the best they can, but there's not someone trying to keep their performances consistent. So I never get a sense that they're the same person from scene to scene. Pretty much everyone besides Porthos feels like someone else in every scene, and I don't like this Porthos.
I can understand that. See, I like this Porthos better than the last one.
Really?
Because this one. One thing I like about this world, and I guess we'll jump around to this. This world feels much more lived in than the previous.
Yeah, it's more realistic.
It's a realized world. Yeah, and the production value, it looks like that era. Everything looks right, feels right, smells right. Probably literally smells like. Everybody looks like they stink in this movie. It look like they smell horrible. See, I liked Depardieu's Porthos because it's he is the comic relief. He's the only character that doesn't have much of a story.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Some of the comedy with him felt schizophrenic, like his, barn scene. I don't know, when he tried to Minecraft himself. Yeah. The movie wants you to laugh at that moment, but I was cringing through all of it because
I chuckled. I know. Yet again, I know it's coming. I've seen this several times.
I know it's coming. It was coming.
Okay.
The only part of that whole sequence that got a chuckle out of me was Jeremy Irons' delivery. It's like, oh, he seems to be going into the barn naked. Like that delivery made me laugh. The rest of the scene was just,
for me,
didn't land.
I like his performance better than who was it? Last week, I forget his name suddenly.
I don't remember.
His actor. I forget the actor from last week. I can't remember anymore. I found that one, while enjoyable, it was surface over the top, and it's cliched. This one, I could feel, even though Porthos is the thinnest of the three that get or the four that has anything to do in this, he's just basically going through a midlife crisis where he's suffering from impotency. I mean, that's his story. He's suffering from impotency, and he's got kidney stones, and that's it. But it's funny, and Gerard Depardieu is an outstanding actor. So his delivery,
he definitely cares. He definitely is putting in an effort. I think the bigger problem is direction, because even other actors who I think are genuinely great performers, like John Malkovich, I don't think John Malkovich wanted to be there. He definitely
there was something off. There is definitely something off. Malkovich's performance is good,
scenes,
but it's off.
Yeah.
I think the best performances are Jeremy Irons.
Yes, that one's easy.
Gabriel Byrne is
D'Artagnan.
D'Artagnan. Gabriel Byrne is
D'Artagnan. The bigger problem I had, I felt like his character was the most consistent and his motivations made sense. But from someone who knows a little bit of the other story, it felt jarring to see D'Artagnan go from, the headstrong, adventurous person to just depressed all the time. Like, this D'Artagnan made me sad in every single one of his scenes. Like, you just want to die, don't you?
That's why the line at the end of the movie is so great. You're the one that was wearing the mask. That's why it's a really great line. D'Artagnan's the one that I think it's a great line, but I think it's a good line because
and that's what I mean. I think that there is a good script under here, and that could have been a great line. I think my bigger problem was the delivery. So I think
that's a young DiCaprio and
not trying an accent whatsoever.
No, that is a carryover from the last movie. Half the actors aren't even trying an accent. I mean, Malkovich doesn't even try. Jeremy Irons will say a few words, but he's Jeremy Irons. At least he's got an English accent. It's fine. Gabriel Byrne is sort of trying, and DiCaprio doesn't even try at all. And Depardieu's French, so he's fine. He's fine. He's okay. But I agree. But see, Gabriel Byrne, the seriousness of it is why I like his performance.
It was just jarring more than anything else to know what the character used to be and what he was in the first two books.
But it's been 20 years. So.
It does make sense. It is just kind of like hard to realize, is that really D'Artagnan? But I think at the end of the day, all these performances suffered from direction issues. They're all phenomenal actors, but John Malkovich isn't invested, and the others aren't getting good direction. So I think this Randall Wallace guy needs someone to direct and rewrite his script.
And what I feel is John Malkovich is an outstanding actor. I think he's a little miscast as
100%.
Athos. Little miscast. Even though I'll give all of them credit, man, they all nailed the choreography. All of them did the choreography well. I like the choreography because they didn't try to do fancy fencing. They had it be brawl fencing, close quarters fencing, and I think they allowed because Depardieu. Have you ever seen his Cyrano de Bergerac?
No
version. Oh, it's total French film. It's fantastic. That's one of the best Cyrano adaptations I've ever seen. He did all the fencing in that one, if I remember correctly. Jeremy Irons, theater trained Jeremy Irons. He knows how to stage fence. He knows how to do it. But Malkovich, I don't think he know how to do it, but they gave him a way out. They allowed him to dual wield dagger, rapier. So they gave him a way to try and hide without doing choreography and have it be kind of battle choreography. So they managed to cloak the choreography in a proper battle sequence without too much technical stuff needing to be shown while showing all the characters to be badass. And wasn't Kiefer Sutherland close up going on somebody. It wasn't that. And it wasn't what happened last week where they're just making sure that Porthos just using every type of weapon possible so he doesn't have to actually fight anybody. Yeah. They actually,
and it does make sense. They are much older. They've been retired for a long time, so of course most of them, besides D'Artagnan, are going to be a little rusty, at least a little bit.
But I like the choreography, and they all portrayed it well. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't choppy and nasty. And to go back to talking about the acting, the weakest would be I agree. John Malkovich feels a little.
He does have a few good moments where John Malkovich showed
he's John Malkovich. He's
Malkovich. It's because he's John. But he didn't have a director or apparently the motivation to have a consistent performance. And like he had a couple great scenes with DiCaprio as Philippe. Those were the good moments, the quiet moments where John was shining in this movie. But the rest is he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, and DiCaprio is weak because I don't think DiCaprio really is the greatest actor in the world, but this is a younger
No.
version. This is younger.
He
But
grew into a little
does-
bit more talent.
But he does do a good job portraying two separate characters. And because
They are distinct.
to pull it into a present day, and I apologize to anybody watching this as a rewatch later down the road for evergreen content. We're watching current day The Acolyte with Amanda Stenberg. She cannot portray two different characters. She can't do it for the life of her. But DiCaprio, he pulls it off. Philippe and Louis are two distinct characters with two distinct personalities, and DiCaprio can emote. He can emote. He can get the feelings across, and it's believable. So I give him credit for that, but he is the weakest one because he doesn't even try for the accent, and there's just I don't want to say he didn't want to be there like Malkovich, but it's there. Good direction would have maybe gotten more out
That's
of it.
what
I agree.
I think that's this movie's biggest problem. Like, there is a great movie in here. I do believe that, with, like you said, the set design, the costuming for the most part. I don't like the red in the Musketeers, the average Musketeers uniform. D'Artagnan's was fine, but the average Musketeer is the red clashed. But besides that, there's a lot of talented people working on this movie. It's just there wasn't a connecting force to it all to put it towards a singular vision, and that usually comes down to direction.
I can agree with that. Objectively, I agree with you, but subjectively, I'm still in the flow with it because I'm carried by the performances, and I'm also I feel like the pacing and the flow of the movie goes really well.
It's pretty slow, but in an acceptable way.
It's not like last week where they're just going from point A to point B.
Yeah,
and events
the
are
plot
happening.
wasn't moving for
the
plot
characters are moving the plot in this.
Absolutely.
Which works because you have the whole thing of, okay, Louis is a tyrant. And he is running the country into the ground. He's got multiple wars going on, and people are literally starving. And he doesn't give a shit. He's willing to give them spoiled food. And I think that is it's a funny scene, and also it's a waste of Hugh Laurie, where Hugh Laurie just gets shown to be this advisor who wants to do right, gets a couple minutes in there, and then boom, sorry, you're no longer chief advisor. You're executed. Now you are. It's like, wow, okay, you're done.
I was surprised to see him in such a small role. Yeah.
Bye, you're done. But so he's a tyrant. He's horrible. And D'Artagnan's doing the best to try and be a positive voice in his ear. But he doesn't want to listen because like it or not, Louis is his own man. He fully believes in the mandate. I am anointed by God. I am a king here to rule this country and maybe even rule the known world. So there's so basically now you have it's a lot of little plots in the beginning that quickly become one plot, which I think feels a little weird. And the one thing I do want to say, though, for me, and I talking about how the story progresses and how it looks, and the direction may be weak in certain aspects, but I think it was a good call to have shots of Philippe in the Iron Mask and have no explanation. It's it's just dotted in there of what's this guy, what's he doing? No needless exposition. I think that's the way to put it. Needs exposition until finally, after the attempt on Louis' life and all this stuff, asking Aramis to hunt down the head of the Jesuits but he's the head of the Jesuits, and he reveals to his brothers in arms that I'm the head of the Jesuits. Louis is a tyrant. We're going to replace him with somebody else, and then boom, there's a man in the Iron Mask, and it leads it there without exposition. And
for the most part, it's not. There's one big exposition dump after they get Philippe and they're at that.
But it works.
I have a lot of issues with that scene, especially. Here, just 1 second.
Okay. While Jed's going, I think I know where he's going. I'll lay the scene so he can comment when he gets back. I think what he's talking about is when they take off the helmet mask, and Aramis is detailing the events, and we had already heard Philippe say, a man in black came and took me. They put me in the mask. And then Aramis reveals in his exposition dump, it was me. I found that a reasonable exposition dump. I found it reasonable.
There were parts of it that just weren't believable. Like everyone being surprised that they're brothers, even after seeing them. Like D'Artagnan was like, he's your brother? It's like, obviously he's your brother. But in this scene, the same thing kind of in a much smaller scale happened with Athos and Porthos. But it wasn't necessarily the exposition coming. Like he did need to explain it. I just feel Aramis would have explained that to his brothers in arms. They're equals to him. Athos and Porthos, he would have told them a little bit, at least, maybe not the whole story, but enough to say this man is going to replace Louis. Like just enough. They were completely blown away by the idea that this was the twin brother. And so it was more character stuff that was unbelievable. And it was very coincidental that all three of those things happened. Aramis was the one on duty, knew that they were twins. Aramis was the one who was ordered to put the iron mask on him. Aramis was the leader of the Jesuit order. Like those are a lot of dominoes to fall into perfect alignment to allow this to take place.
I wouldn't say like back then maybe he was the leader of the Jesuit order back then. I think
no. I know he does become it, but it puts him in the position to have the resources.
I don't know if it's coincidence that he was the one on duty. I think maybe he would have that then young Louis would go to him because Aramis wouldn't have a problem doing dirty shit because he goes to him here to get the Jesuit leader, not knowing that he's a leader. Because
that doesn't make sense because Aramis would be the least likely to do dirty shit.
Well, maybe. See, I think it's one of those kind of balances of Aramis will do dirty shit and then feel bad about it because he's a man of God.
From what we see, Louis has a much closer relationship to D'Artagnan, obviously so. So I see it as more character likely that he would have asked D'Artagnan to go get his brother and put him in the Iron Mask. But obviously that would be a problem in
story.
Context,
They come for the story part
because we know, but Louis doesn't know that D'Artagnan's both their fathers.
D'Artagnan captain of the guard at that point? Because this is when Louis just becomes king, and
that's only 6 years. And Aramis wasn't captain of the guard.
No, but I don't think he was even. I don't think he was even the Musketeers anymore. I think that's something why he went to Aramis to do it because Aramis wasn't in the Musketeers, and D'Artagnan still was commander captain of the Musketeers. I think it's kind of a spy master type thing. Find the guy who is not directly involved with anything like that. And at the same time,
then why Aramis? Athos makes more sense than Aramis for that second bit. If Aramis just happens to be the one on duty during the birth, that's fine. But he also just happens to be the one that Louis asks to...
you know what I think? That would require reading the book, maybe.
Maybe.
That maybe that's information that's
there
in the
is
book.
Headcanon that can work. There is headcanon that can work. For example, if the letter from Louis's father had said, these are the people who know, these are the people who have proven themselves trustworthy, and it lists Aramis, that is headcanon that could work. But that would need to be in the movie to actually help. And I could totally buy that. If Louis got this letter from his dad and it's like, hey, you've got a secret brother out in the woods. Aramis knows. Aramis has been taking care of it. You can rely on him. I mean, obviously written better than that. But that is headcanon. That could work. The movie just didn't utilize the explanation.
I understand where you're coming from.
Three dominoes.
I understand it. And that's an acceptable criticism. But as far as I'm concerned, the flow of the movie, I'm not questioning why Aramis was there. I'm satisfied with the explanation that Aramis did it because it's feeding into his storyline, why he's been so down on himself since the moment we come upon him when Porthos storms into the room. And it's because that's his story. He's seeking forgiveness for this act and for keeping it covered up and for portraying it as the lie that it is for so long and for keeping it from D'Artagnan for all these years. Of course, nobody knew D'Artagnan was the father, but yeah, that could go into where your idea of why doesn't he tell his brothers what's going on? So it's for me though, it doesn't detract from me because I'm actually in that moment, in that scene, I'm caught up. Even though today I might have been doing something else at the same time, I'm still drawn in while I'm watching it. And I'm appreciating the fact that here it is, they've revealed it, and everybody's having a different reaction. Because in that scene, I like Athos's reaction of, wait a minute, we're not going to have a bloody revolution? I want war. No, we're going to do this bloodless.
That did make sense character-wise. He was out for blood.
Yeah, and Porthos like, what? This is retarded. This isn't smart. This is dumb. And but Porthos and Aramis like, wait a minute, guys, we have to do this. We have no choice. The country is dying. And then and that's kind of leading up now to the beginning because for those who may wonder, Athos is pissed off because Louis took a liking to his son's would-be fiance and basically arranged for his son to die on the front lines of the current war so that he could swoop in and take her. And that the whole Christine subplot is one of the weakest things for me.
It's
Although,
absolutely weak, especially when she finds out the truth at the end. She
yeah,
already knew the truth, but it's just written really poorly. It's like,
yeah,
I sent a letter in your name to the front and said, why did you put
yeah,
him in danger?
yeah.
It's like, but sir, you
And
told us to put him in danger.
the point is, the whole Christine thing is all done so that she can have that moment at the party, which lets D'Artagnan know that that's not Louis.
Yeah, he's being
It's
too
a
nice to her.
it's a whole setup, and
And
you have to understand
the
that's the whole
reveal,
purpose of that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the Minecrafting does play into Louis' character as well. Which there
Mhm.
is one thing that I don't get is when D'Artagnan hears, her scream, he goes to the king first, and then the king's like, "Hey, it's up in her room," and he
Mhm.
goes through the secret passageway. Did you see the note that was beside the window? Her
I
Minecraft note.
honestly, I was honestly looking at another screen.
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't.
confused. Her note says in big letters, "For my sister."
That might just be a bad edit.
I don't know what that note's
That that
trying to
that
say.
might be bad editing. Then I didn't see it. I was crafting in Final Fantasy 14. I admit it. Um, I was looking into the screen. So
I do like D'Artagnan's acting in that moment when he came
yeah,
back downstairs, opened the window, and like that was
right
some
there,
good acting
boom.
from him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but see, her whole thing is to lead up to the fact that once D'Artagnan can, her whole arc is so one it's connected to Athos's
Yeah, get
whole arc.
Athos involved in the story,
Yeah,
basically.
that's his because for through his son. But then her continued part of it is simply a subplot so that we can have the reveal that D'Artagnan can know that that's not Louis at the party, and
Mhm.
then to lead up to this moment where D'Artagnan has to realize this kid is lost. The Louis is a lost cause, and whoever that is down in the dungeon, he's a better option. He's got to be. He's got to be a better option
Mhm.
because this kid is about to destroy the country. There is no saving him
Yeah.
because it leads to that moment when he learns that. I mean, now because in defense of not realizing that both Philippe and Louis might be brothers, it could be a lookalike at that point because
He knows the face so well.
but he doesn't know there was a brother because everybody was told, well,
Mhm.
as far as, well, Anne knows, thinks the baby died.
Yeah.
So she never even told him that there was a second baby.
Mhm.
And and Louis the 15th knew the baby was alive, but hid it away. So only Anne, the people in charge of Philippe, and Aramis knew.
Mhm.
So if I'm D'Artagnan, and who is a logical man, looks situation, it's just a lookalike, a really damn good lookalike, because I never even knew there was another baby.
Mhm.
Now, if he had known there was another baby and it died, then I could say go with where you're saying, how can he not know? But
Well, at
I,
least be
I,
aware that that is a possibility. Like he's blown away that that's even a possibility. He could say, "All right, it's probably just a lookalike," but when he finds out, he's whoa. It's like no, that is one of the two most likely scenarios.
well,
So,
I believe the situation is the movie
mm,
prevents it. There's enough for there to believe it, which is why I'm not thinking too hard on it personally. So
mhm,
I'm okay with it. But it's a great scene because then D'Artagnan I really like it because he says, "If I had known you existed, I wouldn't have let any of this happen. I would have been a father to
mhm,
you, and by your actions now, for the first time in my life, because and it's a excellent moment because we got to harken back to when Athos says to him, "Do you know what it's like to be a father and have your son taken from you?" And in that
mhm,
moment, there hasn't been enough evidence in the movie for us to know that D'Artagnan is the father. So he goes, "No," and Athos is like, or sorry, Athos is going, you can't know this, and you don't know. You shut up. You shut up,
mhm,
and next time I see you, I'm gonna kill you." But now in this moment, it's the full circle of the story between their relationship and the strain it's been under of, oh shit, he has been a father this whole time, and he's been watching his son be a mass murderer in a sense because he orders or a willing mass murderer. If you, I don't want to say wars mass murder, but he was willingly giving the order to shoot civilians who would riot
mhm.
again. So a monster. He's been a father trying to control a monster of a son, and he realized that in there. So when he says, "I've never been more proud as a father until right now, this moment." Yeah, and they cut to Athos, and he's like, "Damn, okay, wow, all right,
Mhm.
he gets it. Uh, all fences are mended." it all leads to that moment. And even though the whole Christine plot arc is annoying, it has its purpose.
It
could have
does
been
serve a
executed better.
function.
Yeah.
And again, that comes down to redraft and direction issues.
Less of
And
her scenes, I think.
yeah, we
cut out.
definitely didn't need as much.
You didn't need like 3 of her scenes could have been cut out.
Mhm.
She could have been absent most of the movie and just referred to, and it could have accomplished the same effect of her barging into the party
Yeah.
and accusing him. And of course with a better way than, like you said, the letter that I forged. Because honestly,
and she's just expositing the whole thing, and
yeah,
it doesn't
'cause-
sound good with her distraught voice.
yeah, and so it's I'm okay with it because it serves purpose, but it could have been executed better. And also that actress, she
But
did not.
there are a lot of scenes that I think could serve from some changes, like we've been talking about. There's one line in particular that stood out to me a lot that I think a good director could have made it work, and a rewrite could have helped a little bit. Is the secret meeting that the Three Musketeers and D'Artagnan have at the end of like the first act, when Aramis reveals he's the secret general of the Jesuits. That scene, when it ends and it's just D'Artagnan and Aramis, Jeremy Irons' Aramis says, "Then God go with you." And I think that line is perfect coming from him right after what D'Artagnan said, but the delivery was off because Jeremy Irons wasn't told what to do in that scene. And so with a good director, that line could have been iconic. But then
Feels like a first take to you?
Exactly. It feels like a first take to me. And then I think it was ruined, honestly, by him whispering real creepily, "Because none of us will." That I hate ending with that. Then God go with you is more than enough. With good delivery, it could say that in subtext. And a good director would know, all right, we don't need to say "because none of us will," because that's subtext.
That's kind of the problem when you're a writer and a director. You're afraid to change your own shit. You think it's perfect as it is. Whereas if you have the writer and a director is an outside party, says, "Okay, this isn't working. Why don't we change it like this?" And the writer's on hand to say, "Okay, how about change it this?" And you have a meeting of the minds and 2 different points of view, and you have the ability to come to maybe a better outcome where you have different perspectives giving information to make a scene better. But when you're just the writer and the director, no one's going to argue with you because you're the writer. No one's going to say, "Wait a minute, this isn't working. Why don't we redo these couple of lines here? Why don't we allow a couple great actors like Malkovich or Jeremy Irons maybe to ad-lib something?"
Yeah.
These are guys who are pros at their job. And if they get into it, they can probably maybe give us a gem of a line out of nowhere. Because let's be honest, there is a history in cinema where some of the greatest lines in cinema were uttered ad lib. I mean, we when we did our Good Will Hunting video, the Robin Williams line that at the end there, that everybody loves, that's an ad lib. After, as we talked about that one, a million takes, he just son of a bitch stole my line. I mean, that was an ad lib. And that's one of the things about Robin Williams, to touch on that for a moment. Most of his shit is ad lib. Greatest shit is ad lib. Guys like Bill Murray will ad lib shit way back in the day. So let these talents sometimes maybe work at it. And when you have
at least experiment with a couple takes. You're going to take a lot of takes. Yeah. So at least allow a few to experiment. If something's not feeling right, let them experiment.
Let me look up this guy. Oh, damn it, wrong mouse. I'm running 2 different computers.
Yeah,
guys. I've got Studio on one computer screen, and I've got the StreamYards on another one. So I'm grabbing the wrong mouse. Let me look up. Let me go to IMDb real quick. Let me go here real quick, and let me see what Randall Wallace also did. God damn it! And I also have my keyboard hooked up to 2 different things, so it takes a second. Man, in the God damn it. I'm at an angle, so my fingers are in the wrong places here.
Okay, he was known for We Were Soldiers, Heaven is for Real, Secretariat.
Really?
He's doing the new Passion of the Christ, apparently, and worked on Braveheart.
Oh, so he's got a relationship with Mel Gibson, huh?
Must do.
All right.
And those are different credits, obviously. So yeah, writer. He did Heaven is for Real.
Oh, I'm looking at his director stuff. He
wrote Braveheart.
He wrote Braveheart, which is, it had its moments. I mean,
yeah. But yeah, director, he did Secretariat, Man in the Iron Mask.
All right,
Blade of
so this was his
Succession.
first. This was his first directing job.
You can see it.
You
can
could see it, and you know what? You can't have a rookie director with, I would say, between Malkovich, Gabriel Byrne, Jeremy Irons, and Gerard Depardieu. Those are 4 powerful personalities on a set.
I've never heard of the Porthos actor.
That's Gerard Depardieu. He's a famous French actor. He's famous. Yeah,
I've never heard of him.
Oh my God! Well, he's famous. He has got a very long career. Right now, they're trying to Me Too him right now.
No,
But,
of course.
He's
But
got
yeah,
So these are massive personalities on
they're
set.
powerhouses.
And you're a rookie. This might explain it. You know, Irons and Malkovich might have decided, you know what, we're kind of okay with this. We don't want to do it anymore. He might have been like, okay, all right. You need somebody on set to go, no, guys, let's go again. Let's do it again. Let's run this again. So that could explain.
No one was pushing John Malkovich to do a good performance, and you can see that. So I think that's 100% the problem with this movie. He's a rookie director.
And I agree with you. As much as I enjoy it, your objective criticisms are valid and they make sense. But subjectively, I'm still having fun watching them bring Philippe into what they see now as his right, because Louis has basically lost the right to be king because he's trying to destroy the country and the people. And now let's educate this young man who has lived a life of simplicity, who understands the small folk, who was living as the small folk and wants nothing but peace and tranquility, and is everything that a king should be, willing to be empathetic to the people, willing to
he has the emotional backing, but he doesn't really have the education to back it. So he's a better option 100%, but there's no guarantee he'd still be a good king.
But
you just don't want an ass. That is progress.
But they have the perfect system of, we're going to surround him with us and his mother.
Keeps going
and Queen Anne would
as long as he's willing to listen to the great
and obviously
advisors.
He is. I mean, at least at the end of the movie, Philippe's very keen on, I want to hear everything you guys have to say because I know I'm not ready to do this on my own.
And that's honestly probably the most important thing about being king, is knowing, or just a ruler or a leader of any kind, is sometimes you're not going to know the answer, and that's okay.
Yeah. And I really appreciate the storytelling aspects of the education parts. It's a montage. It feels a little weird that they drop a montage into the movie like this, but they have to skip 3 weeks somehow, you know? And it's good to show the relationships and what everybody's doing. It's a little clunky, but it still works. And I appreciate the show don't tell aspects of it. How they're trying to set the fact that Athos lost a son. At the end of this, Philippe loses his father, who even though he knew for 5 minutes, did make that instantaneous connection because D'Artagnan tried in those final moments to show, I care. I want to be a good dad. And to basically have a surrogate son, surrogate father.
The relationship is really good. There's a scene that I don't like, though, between Aramis and Athos, where they come out and say exactly what you did. Like, from an audience perspective, from pretty much the first scene that Philippe, Athos knows who Philippe is, their first interaction, you can see the surrogate father thing. You can see the show don't tell of it. And then in conversation with Aramis, Athos just says, there is no one who can replace my son. Why would you think I would want to replace my son? And it just feels so clunky. And you get away from the good show don't tell.
And at the same time, we go back to Malkovich's kind of, I'm just showing a performance. When he has his breakdown, my son, it's just like, yeah, you're not selling it, Johnny. You're not selling it.
He's massively miscast, but he could have been good with the strong director.
Yeah. But he's still Malkovich, as we said, and it's a good performance for what it is, because he's not a terrible actor, and that's the only reason it's salvageable within the movie, because Malkovich is an excellent actor, and even when he's mailing it in, it's still good.
Yeah,
it's
better than DiCaprio when he's just mailing it in.
Yeah. I mean, DiCaprio has his moments in the movie where he does really well. I harken back to what
especially
I said earlier.
As Philippe.
Yeah, Philippe. My favorite Louis moment is after when he finds out about the spoiled food and he fires Hugh Laurie. That moment where he slams open the door, you're fired, execute him. I like that moment. That's like the best Louis
Yeah.
moment to me. I like that. Every other Louis moment towards the end when he's screaming, I just see a screaming toddler.
Yeah,
He's
it
yelling
doesn't
like
come
that.
across very
It
well.
yeah, when he's doing that stuff. But overall, I still, to go back to the pacing, I think the movie flows nicely. It slows down in the second act like a second act does, but there's enough meat of well-placed exposition where they're all telling why they're doing this stuff. They're all explaining the plan. You see the relationships building, growing. Especially harken back to the whole attempted Minecraft scene. I love Jeremy Irons in that moment. I'm a genius, not an engineer. He's just, I appreciate it. I'm chuckling because right there you're watching the banter between the three musketeers. When Porthos comes out, you've been useless for 2 months. Maybe now you'll get this etching yourself out of your system. You can actually be useful and do something. So I like the banter, the interplay, because it leans into the more what I said earlier. The world feels lived in here. Actually, there's more depth to the characters as opposed to last week's Disney version of the Three Musketeers, where it was just surface level. Maybe this is, I wouldn't say there's super depth, but it's at least a few inches more thicker.
Yeah.
And there's more to work with. And I understand the motivations of all these characters. It's not just we're doing this, we're doing that. No, I understand we're doing it. I can feel it, understand it. I know where we're going. And I appreciate the conclusions of everybody's parts in all of this. And it's I'm satisfied. I think that's really where I'm going with this. No matter what, I'm simply satisfied at everybody's role in this, how it plays out. My criticisms are leaning towards what you said. We've listened some of the weak acting, the weak direction, but it's over. Not acting, the weak portrayal in a sense, like with Malkovich. Delivery, weak delivery. That's the better way to put it. But the overall world building. I mean, at one point last week we complained about how quickly they got from Paris to Calais. I like it how at one point Jeremy Irons' Aramis says, "Yeah, I'm gonna be gone a few days. I got to go to Paris. I'll be gone a few days. It's going to take me time." Thank you. Thank you for letting me know it's going to take time to get from A to B.
And that's so simple. That's not like the movie has to take the time to show you those 3 days. It could just be a throwaway line to show distance. It's really that simple. It could be better, of course. That is the bare minimum, but it's still something.
It's something, and it leads to this. It feels like France at this point. I'm not simply watching what feels like a parade through a theme park, which was what I kind of, even though it's a fun ride last week, it still feels like you're going through a Disney theme park and not really seeing France, because the grittiness, the dirtiness, the nastiness, that I like seeing this world that they live in, even though the war moment where Athos' son dies. What's his name? Shit. Begin with an R.
Raul.
Where Raul dies.
Which
it was really cheap.
Always associate with Spanish. Like,
Spanish,
that's a Spanish name to me.
Maybe his wife was Spanish.
Maybe.
But his death scene, that's a very cheap looking scene. He runs up the hill and suddenly he pauses. Oh, and then
that was a really bad moment.
It's like, oh, he's dead.
We didn't even need to see it necessarily. I think it would have been better if we had a great Athos reaction scene. I don't think we ever really got a great one, like him getting a letter or someone telling him. And you could have.
I like the rage after that though, where he goes in and just tears into the Musketeer recruits. That's good. I like that.
I feel like that would have been the best way to find out. We don't need dialogue. We just need John Malkovich, some good music, and that would have been a director's choice to trim that up.
Yeah, that's more direct stuff. And I feel the third act is, I think for me, the third act forgives a lot of the stuff in the end of the first act, let a second, because it's the culmination. You have the party, they get it in there, they get in there. You get Philippe in there, they swap out Louis. A lot of great confrontations, and you get some of the payoffs, because we talked about the surrogate father, surrogate son thing they were building. When they lose Philippe as they're escaping for the first time, and Philippe is calling out to Athos, and Athos is calling out, trying to hold on to him. I felt that. That's where Malkovich was doing his acting there. He was putting on performance. And then in the final moments, and when it's the four Musketeers versus all those dudes in the hallway, that's badassery. And I don't know if this is accurate historically, but those black tunics, oh, hell yes. Hell yes. Badass in black, baby. I love it. But the badassery as they're winning and then dominating, and then they're trapped. Soldiers coming in from one door, Louis and Musketeers at the other end. What do we do? And they're resigned to their death, but Aramis says, man, we're legends. We're legends. Let's just take that 1 in a million chance and charge them and freak them out. We might get through this. And they agree to do it. And it's that moment of we are these brothers in arms again. We're to do this. And the charge is awesome because it's realistic. Because if you would think, how are they going to survive? That's a firing line. That's a lot of muskets pointing at them. Here is an actual good direction moment. They make sure to zoom in that all those Musketeers are closing their eyes as they shoot.
It's still not enough, though, because they're not...
It's enough for me.
It needs to be intentional leaning away, because that many people just closing their eyes and firing, that's going to have an accidental hit on at least one person.
I think there was a couple... They were limping after it, so I think there were a couple grazes.
Maybe. They need to be a lot more clear on that. But if they were conscious, not just closing your eyes and hope it doesn't hit them, like if you had these people just going...
But when you close your eyes, it shifts a little bit. And I think it was...
A little bit, but there's still just a high chance of one accidentally hitting, and we need to see that. Like, I needed those Musketeer recruits to consciously move their rifles out of the way to make it believable.
And here's where we come back to what we said at the beginning of the stream. There's that slight fantastical thing. The slight fantastical. These are legends among men. These are basically superheroes in that moment, and they get through it. And it's contrasted by the moment when the first charge happens before D'Artagnan says, try not to kill them if you can. And every one of them just slightly lowers their pistols and takes them out. So I think the whole thing was set up, and it's enough for me. For the fact that they take the time to show them closing their eyes, it's enough
just
for me.
Too many guys for me to understand. If there were like 5 dudes in that firing line, I'm there. I got it. That's statistically likely enough. But with like 20 or 30 of them,
no, there were 20 or 30. There were like 10. There was
10. More than 10. It's 10 to 20 at least.
All right, you know what? Hang on. I'm gonna.
But that's just.
Oh, damn it! Wrong screen.
There were multiple lines of these guys. It's just too many guys.
I'm gonna bring up the screen. Let me take a look.
I laughed very hard when the new leader of the Musketeers in that scene, right before all this happened, right before the charge, was telling King Louis, "Oh, the hallway nullifies our numbers, so we can't attack them." This is a wide ass hallway. You could park a car long way, like easily, a pickup long ways.
I think he's just making an excuse because he didn't want to do it.
Like there are hallways that could nullify their numbers, but just the way he said that, I was laughing. He's like, this hallway is not nullifying their massive advantage.
Right, here we go. Almost got it. Let me lower this here. All right. God damn it. Keyboard not working on this. I keep hitting my keyboard and it's attached to the other computer.
Why did you do the dual computers? Is that new?
Well, it's so I can play Final Fantasy 14 without a problem. It's also a backup computer because I'm afraid the old girl's going to die any minute. I'm always afraid, and also it's hers. It's also going to be my mom's computer eventually. So it has a. I'm going to be paying it off for the next year. It serves a purpose. It's a back computer, and it allows me to play Final Fantasy 14 because I didn't even meet the minimum requirements for the new stuff on the other one. So that's why that is a new thing. It's this week, but I have to keep switching the keyboard and my good keyboard and my only keyboard and the good mouse back and forth. So I just left it in there because that's what I was doing before we went on, and I could pull Studio up, but I didn't want to switch everything. Here we go. Okay, I'm counting. I got it right here. If I could share the screen, I would, but I can't.
You can't share the screen.
They're two separate computers.
Oh, you're doing it on different ones.
StreamYard is over here. Studio and everything else is over here. Oh, wait, no, it is. I am on the right one. No, I am. Okay, wait a minute. I'm a boomer. I am on the right one. Okay, I am going to share the screen.
I don't even
can't
care
share
if there's like 3 guys now in the
I can
picture.
share the screen.
This was
I
worth
can
it.
share the screen. I can share the screen. Okay, so here we are. So that's how they are.
That's
at the
3
charts.
rows. Yeah, that's too many.
That's
It's not 20. It's not 20 to
1,
30.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I said 10, 12.
All right. So yeah, 20 was excessive, but still, that's
Okay.
way too many guys on that width of hallway. Someone's getting shot.
Well, Philippe might
And
have
that
gotten
would have
shot.
been
Philippe might have gotten hit, but it bounced off his helmet.
Oh, Jesus. And I think that might have been a better way to have D'Artagnan sacrifice himself, because I like the interaction after he gets stabbed, but the moment he gets stabbed is comically bad. The way he jumps in.
Well, it's an unnecessary slow motion. That would have been better. That's rookie director. You don't need slow mo right there. This is a real world situation. You do not need a slow motion shot. It would have been more effective in a regular motion. Suddenly, boom, there it happened. You realize, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, so you couldn't follow it, but in slow mo,
you didn't need DiCaprio going. Ah!
With the slow mo, it's clear that he's purposely putting his back to Louis instead of just grabbing his arm. Like, D'Artagnan is a skilled enough fighter; he could have just grabbed his arm. But in slow mo, it's like, oh yeah, he's sacrificing himself on purpose.
And here's
because he wants to die.
Where he gets stabbed didn't look like a fatal entry point.
Oh God, no. That's what I mean. It has a good interaction afterwards, but the moment it happens is really, really
because
cheesy.
he was stabbed like right here in the upper shoulder, like right here. There's no organs there. I mean, he's not going to bleed out in 2 seconds.
No.
I mean, they showed the blood on the floor that he was bleeding out, but that's a survivable wound.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now if he had stabbed him, where the spine and lower here, that's different. But he stabbed him right here in the upper shoulder. So that rookie director, poorly shot scene. I could accept that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of scenes in this movie fall to that. Like, I know that when we get to the rating the film, our numbers are going to be vastly different.
Oh, they're going to be vastly different because I'm totally subjective
rate
on
these
this.
issues really bad. These issues that I've talked about to the movie, I see as major systematic problems.
Yeah, and and this is one of those times where I'm grading this on a mostly subjective grading because I have a good time, and what you're going at. I see them, but they're not as I'm not as critical as you are about them.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand. But I agree with you. I do agree with you. You are right because I do see them in the movie. I recounted a couple scenes all on my own without you having to point them out. How that's a poorly shot scene. How it's unnecessary. Or like we just said, that knife wound. That's not a killing blow. That's not a fatal wound. But he has to die because that's how Dumas wrote the story. D'Artagnan dies. So anyway, but then it culminates in a happy ending, but it's a bittersweet ending because D'Artagnan dies and they all have to move on with this new way of life of, okay, here we are. I'm Athos. I don't have my son anymore, but I have a surrogate son because now I knew D'Artagnan carried the same weight, even worse than I did with all of this stuff. And I can step in and understand that.
We got all that. It's another example of they did the show don't tell good, at least competently, and then they told you anyway. Like
that last line, "Can I be a son to you and you a father?"
Yeah,
it's a necessary line. I agree. It's an
very
line.
unnecessary, and that's why I say the rewrite too. It's not just a directorial problem. The script needs a rewrite.
It would a line is okay there, but a better line.
Yeah.
Than what they give because DiCaprio delivers it horribly as Philippe at that point. And Malkovich is like, "Is this my last day of shooting? Are we done?
Please tell me I get to go.
Are we done? Can I take this stringy ass wig off? Can I? Or the extensions, whatever."
Yeah.
But it's a great story there. You've got Aramis who has succeeded in his mission and has found maybe found the redemption he was seeking from himself, from Queen Anne, from Philippe. From D'Artagnan, all that. He found redemption. Porthos can get a hard on again, so he's happy. Because Porthos had no story. He had none.
He was along for the ride.
And we didn't talk about D'Artagnan and Anne's side story. I think it's sweet. I don't really have much problem with it.
I feel like we missed a lot in the second story, the middle book. I've never seen an adaptation of that book, and I feel like we missed a lot there because in
Yeah.
every adaptation of the first book I've seen, and from what I remember of the first book, there's his relationship with her handmaiden. So it feels like the relationship kind of comes out of nowhere because of how
Something
invested he was in the
changed.
handmaiden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting that I would like to. I don't want to. Oh, God help me! I almost said I'd like to see a current day adaptation. No, we don't want that right now. No, maybe on television. Maybe somebody
In a perfect world, a talented writer and director coming in to do the
on
second one
TV.
would be
Do it on TV. Maybe get 3 seasons. A beginning, a middle, and an
do
end.
the trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah, do it.
So we can see it all cohesive together with the same actors. I could see that being interesting.
Yeah. But I didn't mind that. It felt tacked on though. Like you said, we understand it happened, but it does, if you're jumping from the first movie to this one, the first story to this one, it's kind of out of nowhere. Then again, if you know what happens to the second one, then the reveal that the twins are D'Artagnans, that might be spoiler, unless they hadn't gotten together yet in the second one. I mean,
maybe they had, but at least made D'Artagnan
Yeah.
single and had an interest in her.
I don't know the events of the second story.
I have no idea either.
Yeah, so neither do I. So, and then of course, and then Philippe, and goes on to be Louis and rule until his family takes over, until his children take over, and guess what? Then the French Revolution happens, and it all goes to hell.
Yeah, you can definitely see with Louis here in this movie, that's the type of behavior that was gonna cause problems in about a century.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, Philippe Louis the 16th ended up being a good ruler, but after that, it goes all downhill because then the French Revolution is one of the bloodiest revolutions in European history. So much so that right after the American Revolution, and when it happens, the British are afraid they're going to get another revolution at home this time because they're deathly afraid of Jesuit influence crossing over the channel. That's a whole nother historical discussion for other movies. Anyway, so soundtrack passable, kind of.
I don't remember any of it.
It's kind of that cheesy type of stuff that goes with it. That kind of shit works in the moment. Either way, my week, so I guess I get to rate it first. And Jed was correct in the sense that these are probably going to be drastically different scores. I enjoy the story. Even though we've touched on the different types of performances, I enjoy everybody's performances. The writing is passable enough because the actors are good. And it is a great story by Alexander Dumas. It is a classic tale, and it comes through. I like the lived-in world. I like the look, the feel of it. The choreography and that final action set piece is well done for me. And I always have a smile on my face. And there are certain points when there are emotional feelings that I get that little feeling between my eyes and my nose where I feel the emotion coming through. That's how I know it's hitting me, and I'm having a good time. So I enjoy it. I give it an 8 out of 10 because I always enjoy this movie. And now Jed gets to ruin my day.
Yeah, so a lot of these issues that I've talked about through the movie where, the director is clearly weak, not ready for something like this, where you just need a little bit of a rewrite to make something better. I see those as major issues, and then you add on some performance inconsistencies because of that lack of direction, and the tone is all over the place. Like sometimes it's very, very serious, and then it has a sword boomerang through a water fountain to stab a dude. Like those tones are so massively different that it feels schizophrenic. I see these as big problems with the film, and I do believe that there is a good film at the heart of this. That these actors could have done a phenomenal job because I've seen them all in other things for the most part, at least, and know what they are capable of. There's a good story at the heart of this script. It just needed more talented people to really bring it into even just basic cohesion. So I'm going to have to give this a 5 out of 10.
I guessed correctly. I knew you were going to say 5. I'm thinking he's going to say 5 because say 5. And that's a fair assessment. And I don't discredit a single thing you just said. And those are all valid complaints. And as we've said throughout this entire discussion today, we didn't so much argue today, but kind of understood where we were each coming from on this one, I think. So it's one of those, yeah. But I don't think the movie's a waste of time. It's still a nice little movie. Honestly, I'm thinking about putting it on my shelf right now. I enjoyed it so much today. I might get it for my put on my shelf this year because I enjoy it. I just enjoy it. Anyway, there we go. We're done. Jed, I think you did tell me what we're doing next week.
Yes. So next week might be kind of an inverse of this one where I have the nostalgia goggles and you tear it apart, but we have a reasonable discussion about it. That might be what we're looking at. But I recently found out that Adam has never seen what I consider to be the last great Steven Spielberg film, or at least close to it. And so I decided to pick 2003's Minority Report with Tom Cruise. It's not a movie that's, great writing, next level, like Last Night in Soho or something like that. It's just so much fun, at least to me. So I'm excited to see our discussion of that next week.
I went back and thought about it. I've seen bits and pieces, but nothing cohesive, coherent. I either snatched a couple moments of it when I had terrestrial television and moved on, or it was on and I didn't really pay attention. So I've seen bits and pieces of it, but never the entire thing. So we'll consider it a first watch for me. And I've always been critical with the concept of the movie, so I'm going in with a slight bias because I've never been a big fan of its whole idea. So we could get
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with how they do the time travel, at least the prophetic nature, because there's no actual time travel. It's just prophetic. I think you'll be happy because it's precog, and I think they do a very good job at it.
Yeah. So we'll see. Should be a good one. And we'll be back at the regular time next week, 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you to all of you in both our chats. I see those some came in later. We're happy to have you guys here. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channels, and if I can grab the right mouse and click on the right thing here, we can get out of here and be on our way. So thank you everybody for watching. We will see you guys next time. Until then, take it easy. Have a good night or day wherever you may be.